My name is Sarah Brown-Schmidt. I am an Associate Professor of Psychology and Human Development at Vanderbilt University. And today I'm going to tell you about a project that I did with Aaron Benjamin, a professor at the University of Illinois, and a former student of mine, Yoon, who is a postdoctoral fellow at the Beckman Institute for Advanced Science and Technology at the University of Illinois. This work was generously supported by the National Science Foundation. The aim of this work was to understand the memory processes that guide how we use language in conversational settings. One of the things we know about language and conversation is that speakers are very sensitive to the immediate context. So imagine you and I go to a coffee shop, and I walk up to the counter and I want to order a muffin. And there's lots of different kinds of muffins. There's lemon muffins and chocolate muffins and blueberry muffins. We know from previous work that speakers will be more specific to distinguish the one they want. So they won't just say the muffin. That wouldn't be clear enough. They'll say the lemon muffin. But we also know from other work that speakers tend to distinguish what they're talking about now from the stuff they've talked about in the past. So let's imagine this morning I told you some funny story about my friend Dan S. And today, we've sat down, we're having our coffee, I'm enjoying my lemon muffin, and I want to tell you a funny story about my other friend, Dan L. In situations like that, if I were just to say Dan, you might be confused and not know who I was talking about. You might think I was talking about Dan S. And so we know in situations like this, speakers tend to be more specific. They distinguish who they're talking about now from things they've talked about in the past. So I would probably say something like, oh, I want to tell you about a funny story about my friend Dan L. And so in this work, what we were interested in is the memory processes that guide language use in conversational settings. So what we did is we ran an experiment where we had pairs of participants talk to each other about a series of objects. And we found this same finding. If you had talked about one pair of shoes in the past and you're talking about a new pair of shoes now, you'll be more specific, adding more details to distinguish the current shoe from past shoe. We also found that memory for things that people had talked about in the past was very good. But interestingly, speakers had better memory than listeners. Why is this work important? It shows us that the past, stuff we've talked about previously, influences the way we use language in the future. Another finding that's important here is that speakers remember things better. What this means is you can't assume that your listener is going to remember what you've told them in the past. So if you told a friend some long and complicated story this morning, don't assume they're going to remember all the details this afternoon. You're going to remember much better than them. If you keep that in mind, you might have a more successful conversation. Thank you.